evening and good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Upfront Mind, Body, Soul, Astrology and Wellness podcast, where I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Boulden-Hammond. And listen, I have someone here that I had the pleasure of being, Dr. Joanne Angel Barry Colon, here with me tonight, based upon the phenomenal woman. And I am just amazed about what she does. And we're going to get into it. I'm going to actually let her tell you who she is briefly. And then we're going to dip right on into, because there was something when I was reading over this. And it's one of my pet peeves, because, when we talk about holistic health, health with the mind, the body, and the soul, we got so much hassle on some other folks. But when I seen this, and I'm gonna talk about that is like that, and she has a whole wealth of knowledge here. And hey, we menopausal, she got something coming up for us. So Dr. Joanne, take it away. Give the audience a little brief synopsis, because they're gonna learn a little bit more through these questions that I'll ask you. And I want to say welcome here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. As Dr. Michelle has said, I am Dr. Joanne Angel Barry Colon. I am the founder of Holistic Fitness NY. I serve, help, and transform women over 40, helping them to release emotional weight without dieting, while holding space as they gain confidence and courage to step away from their 9-to-5, outdated relationships, all subconscious beliefs, so they can fully embrace their soul's calling. I have been in this industry, health, fitness, wellness, and nutrition industry for over 4 decades, and started off in this industry we'll use the word, working in the physical realm, and over the last 15 years has transitioned to blending the physical and the mystical, the emotional, the mental, and spiritual, all in one platform. So that's a nutshell of who I am. We're going to keep it simple so we can have fun with this conversation today.
Again, and look, she left one of her titles too. I usually do too, because a lot of people don't realize that she's also a reverend. So before the folks hear for all with the rest that she has to talk about, she gives it a reverence side as well. She's also a reverend. A lot of people don't know that too. I'm a licensed minister as well. So, but hey, when you called, you gifted, he gives it to you, so be it. So that moves into our first question. So yours as an AFAA, certified personal trainer, like you said, I love the fact that you integrate the spiritual and the energetic wellness practices. So can you give a little blurb on how that works together? Because I'll be trying to tell people, that's why I have Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul. You can't have one without the other, right?
Exactly. And I think the simplest and easiest and quickest way to explain how it works together, based on the name of my business, Holistic with a W, that W is a representation of the whole person, the body, the mind, the emotions, and the soul and spirit. And as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, for the first portion of my career, it was all about the physical, helping women and men focus on weight loss, getting a smaller waistline, fitting into their jeans, their bathing suit, their wedding dress, whatever have you. And then over the years, it just got to that point where, as I evolved spiritually, it just didn't fit anymore for me to continue to only focus on the physical, as it was about who am I on the soul level? And since I was asking that question for myself, I'm sure there were other people asking the same question. So as I went through my spiritual journey to discover who I was, not just physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, it got to that point where working just on the physical 3D layer just wasn't satisfying anymore. And I do want to put it out there that it wasn't just about me waking up one day and saying, okay, I'm going to shift over from the physical into the spiritual. It was really about a 12-year relationship coming to an end from my perspective unexpectedly. It was like one day to the next, the relationship ended. And if you've ever been in a long-term relationship and you spend a lot of time in that relationship, you sort of lose yourself along the way. And that's exactly what happened. Once that relationship ended, I was curious to know who I really was. So by doing so, I started going down the journey of discovering through working with crystals, working with therapists, even for that matter, going and asking those deep questions to theoretically psychics and mediums and all of that, just to get, to get really into the root of it all. And through that, after that period of time, about 4 years later, my mom had passed away suddenly. And through that period of time, that opened up, literally blew open the door of my, shall we say, my spiritual gifts. And with that, it was like, okay, there I was working with my clients in the physical components of things, helping them to lose the weight and get into those skinny jeans. And then I was also working with clients where they were coming to see me for healing purposes and navigating to who they were on a soul level. And I just kept hearing my mom say to me, you need, and when spirit speaks, spirit does not speak directly. You really have to sit quietly. And I just kept hearing her say I needed to blend the two together. And once upon a time, prior to all of this, my business name was Fitness R Us, like Toys R Us. And that wasn't fitting anymore neither. It was just like anytime I would say to somebody what the name of my business was, I was just like, that doesn't feel right anymore. Like, why is this not feeling like this should be the name of it? So the business name obviously had changed to Holistic Fitness. And it was just a matter of getting to that place of understanding that it's not about focusing on the physical components of when someone comes to me as a client in regards to them transforming. It really is about helping them to understand what their weight is associated with on an emotional level, and also what they've been carrying all of their life in regards to working on releasing that emotional connection to whatever it is. So blending the physical and the spiritual so people can understand that we are, and this is one of my favorite expressions, we are spiritual beings having multitude of human experiences. Every day we're having a human experience helping us to get us back to the level of who we are as a spiritual being. And I do think that plays a huge role in reference to when we are looking to strengthen our physical body. It's also about strengthening our mindset, because our mindset plays a big role on how we respond to our physical body. I do believe it's the mind first, then it's the body. So whatever's going on in our mind is going to affect our body. And that's also correlation in reference that how are we feeling emotionally today? So if we're waking up not feeling at the highest level of frequency, that is going to affect our mindset, and that's going to affect our physical body. So it's an important question to ask ourselves when we are in that process of wanting to transform. Whether it's transformation in reference to wanting to be stronger in our own body, or just wanting to transform in regards to the transitions that we go through as women and men, different stages of our lives, who we were when we were 20, who we are when we're 30, who we are when we're 40, who we are when we're 50, and the list goes on and on. And through that process, it's really about evolving into that balance between the spiritual being and all the human experiences that we go through. Did that answer your question?
That answered it. And it actually segued into the next question. I love this because I often tell people that all the time. That's why people always say, well, even when I write, I'm always talking about the mind, the body, and the soul. That's my brand. That is my brand, because I feel as though you can't have one without the other. And one other good thing that I like that you said about when you talked about the therapists and stuff like that, because it's a lot of modalities, because they're getting in with that receptor here. That is the main thing. And it's about the mindset change. When this mindset change, it actually connects down to other portions of your body. And then that would enlighten your soul, because you're getting that gratification of what's been going on through the mindset, through the change and all that, because it's just like a light bulb comes on. So that is about a high frequency. That is being on the right level of frequency. So, you know, again, many people, we always try to separate the thing, right? Even down in the church, we try to separate it, you know,
Yeah.
you try to separate it. So you have emotional, because, you know, from some sectors, people will say that's a demon. A lot of time it's not a demon. You know, it might be effects of something that's happened way back. But a lot of times we got to stop saying that these people are demons when it's really something physically, mentally going on. So, but as you said, how do you teach your clients to view moments as a form of healing in the emotional and the spiritual health?
Repeat that question again.
So many people try to separate the two, right? Emotional or the spiritual health. But again, we know that things connect together. How do you teach your clients to view moments and movements as a form of healing?
Okay. I love that question. And that's why I asked you to repeat it, because not just for myself, but our audience as well, to really take in that understanding. When it comes to healing, whether it's a physical healing, an emotional healing, and I think this is like the perfect day to talk about this, especially with all the energy that we've been experiencing we just had Friday the 13th. I was just having a conversation with someone about this earlier today. And we have this energy where Mercury, which is the planet of communication, traveling, and connection and technology, is in retrograde. And retrograde just means there's a review going on, and every one of us are reviewing something. Now, Mercury happens to be sitting in Pisces energy right now, which is where the sun is. And when we speak about Pisces, Pisces is the last zodiac sign of the 12. It's like the grandfather or the grandmother, so to speak. And when Mercury is transiting in Pisces energy, this is tapping into our intuition. This is helping us to review who we are intuitively, because we all are intuitive beings. But not every one of us are tapping into that ability that we are intuitive, which is why there's so many people who are in a state of confusion and looking outside of themselves for answers, because they're not recognizing they have the answers within. So in regards to healing physically and through movement, it really is the process that when we learn to move our physical body, if we do have anxiety, if we are overwhelmed, if we're anxious, if we're just over analyzing everything that's going on outside, you know, collectively, politics, you name it, that could become very overwhelming for us. And if we find ourselves just sitting, the best way really to get the energy within to move is by moving our bodies. So a word I'm going to bring to the table is the chakras. And the chakras, if we're not moving our bodies, our chakra system, the first two, root chakra, which is connected to the earth, and that is about our fears, our anxiety, our quote unquote depression, not feeling safe, not feeling supported, not feeling provided for. And then the second chakra, which is the sacral chakra, that is a chakra that's associated with our creativity. It's associated with judgment and shame. And it's also very much associated with our mother wound and our mother connection. Now, those two chakras are not flowing. That is where we, as women and even men, fall into this stagnation energy, which then creates illness, disease, and pain in the physical body, which is why it's so important to make sure we're moving the body, whether it's moving through walking, moving through strength training, or just moving where we put on a good song and we dance, you know, for 3 to 5 minutes, just to shake things up and activate our ability to create. Because in natural nature, every one of us are creators. Men and women, we're all creators. Yet if we're not allowing our bodies to move, that energy gets stagnant. And that's where we get stuck, because of the energy being stagnant. So movement is such key to helping us heal. I don't know any person that can put on a song and not feel good after that song, assuming the song is a high vibration song. You know, if they're going to put on a sad song, it may be helpful, because it will then help them move into that emotion that they need to feel sad, so they can release and pull out tears. But I don't know anybody who puts on music that when the music is done, they don't feel better. And most people, when they put on music, whether they're whopping their head or they're moving their shoulders or they're just getting up and dancing on a whole, they start to feel better. So it really is that process of the physical motions, movement, and my big thing is strength training, because that's really gonna connect our entire body and transform from within, from without, and helping us to heal on the overall.
So listen, I know some viewers might be saying, because you was naming, again, I bring everybody to the table because I love to hear different views all the time. There'll be some people out here say, oh, she's talking about energy. That's one word. We're all about energy. You talked about different zodiac signs, again. But I love the fact that you talked about the aligning, because a lot of people don't understand. A lot of these emotions that we're seeing is because of the magnetic field. A lot of people don't understand that. Joanne, thank you for being here, because sometimes I feel like I'm a lost, and people think that what I be talking about is witchcraft. It's not the witchcraft, but it's educational, because there is science behind this. Everything, there is science behind it. Yes, we know that the creator created things, but I'm going to talk about, you were talking about Friday 13th. Well, we know a lot of people omen about the Friday 13th and, numerology and stuff like that. But I want to give you this powerful thing that I had went to Holistic Professionals of Color University. HPOC had a conference maybe like 2 years ago, and a speaker came to the thing. I never looked into really what numbers or whatever else meant. We just think about, because for me, math is not one of my things. I'm out of it. But it was something profound that made me, had this lady said, that made me totally, not to say that I know everything about it, but it gave me something that resonated with me. And when you say, like you say, the retrogrades, and I like listening to that type of stuff, because the move and all the stuff that's happening in the earth, like the other day we had 80-degree weather, next day we have a blizzard going on. So that is a part of what's going on in the magnetic field, something that we can't see, but only with your vibrations you can feel it. I know, like for me, my sleep pattern has been off because of this retrograde, right? But it was something that she said to me that made me think about numerology a little bit. She said God had ordained specific times, location, when you were coming. And this one thing that she said blew me out the whack. And I hope this can help somebody. Not to say that you want to deal in numerology, but I want you to understand that sometimes you got to do some research and your stuff for yourself. You just can't believe everything that someone tells you that it is. And it was so profound. And I never thought about it. And even now myself as a doula, I think about it. She said, God created you. He knew the time, he knew the date, he knew your place, he knew your destination. Before you had your name, you were a number.
That is so true.
Good, think about that. Because when you go to the hospital to have your baby, and I'm just waking people up a little bit here. I'm just giving you something to believe, I'm just giving you something that you can't just deal everything and think the negative of it. Think about the positive of it. God ordained your time, your place, your location. Everything is created. You got social security numbers. You have that. So let me say to you this, audience. Before you had your name, you had numbers. And if you prove me, say, oh, she's talking about numerology. No, I'm giving you facts. Before you have your name, when you go to a hospital, the first thing they do, they have that baby, they clean that baby up, they put you in that little cubicle thing, and it says boy or girl. It has your date, your time you were born, how long you was, what your head was, and you don't even have your name yet. Boy or girl, but you come with numbers. So, I'm going to leave. We're going to take a little quick break, but I want that just to marinate for a little bit before we talk into the next subject. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
My rest is ancestral. It was prayed for in rooms I never entered, dreamed of by hands that work past daylight and still rose before the sun. They did not rest so I could grind myself into dust. They survived so I could soften. I carry generations in my nervous system, drum beats in my chest, hymns in my breath, instructions in my bones that say, pause now.
Welcome back to the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul. And we are here with a fascinating guest of mine, Dr. Joanne Angel Barry Colon. And let's say we dug deep a little bit before we took the little break. I just had to give a little education on that because you also, now this is where I was so excited to hear about this. And I said, I want to talk to you more about that. Because again, we talked about astrology, you know that. But people, did you not know that there's a medical astrology? Can you explain just a little tad bit before, let them redo their research on it, but just give a little tad bit. I was so happy to see that because again, in my field, I've been working in the medical field for a lot. I want to know more about that. Just give them a little tad bit on that.
Yes. And before I dive in to the tad bit on medical astrology, I do want to, back up in reference to what Dr. Michelle is speaking about regarding our numbers, because I'm known as the master of numerology because I play into that as well. Big part of what I do in the work that I do as well. So numbers are extremely important. And when we talk about medical astrology is just that. When I look into a person's chart, if someone's coming to me because they have an illness, pain, whatever not, there's specific houses and zodiac signs that zoom right into a specific something. So what a medical astrologer is someone that can actually look at a chart and define where there may be maybe illness, maybe disease, maybe pain in that person's chart, or even health in itself. For example, as we sit in Pisces season, the last zodiac sign that there is, Pisces is associated with our feet. Now, when we think about our feet are basically what helps us to move one foot in front of the other. Many people, because of all the energy we do have going on with Pisces right now, may be experiencing some issues with their feet or having issues where they're not ready to make that next step forward. And that's because of all the energy that sits in their feet. So when I'm looking at a chart, it's to define what might be going on for that person in regards to why they may be having challenges in whether it's their relationship, their career, their health, whatever have you. And there's very specifics. For example, we are what right now we're in the North and South nodes are in Pisces and Virgo. Virgo is associated with our nervous system and also our health and wellness. So we all have Virgo on our chart. It's also associated with the sixth house and is ruled by Mercury. And I mentioned Mercury earlier for those who were here from the very beginning. If you're just tuning in, you'll have to come back and watch from the beginning on what I said about Mercury. But Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. It's also the ruler of Gemini. So it really is, when we talk about Virgo's energy, it's about how our body is speaking to us. And I always say that whenever we're having anything going on with our body, it's our body's way of letting us know that something is either out of alignment or being realigned. As Dr. Michelle had said earlier, due to her inconsistent sleep habits, and many of us are having inconsistent sleep habits due to the energies that we are experiencing. And wherever you are in the world, if you happen to be on the East Coast or you're in a place where we had 80-degree weather and now we have 40-degree weather, bipolar weather, so to speak, what we're really experiencing based on the medical astro of it all is the earth is going through a spiritual flu. Just like we are going through a spiritual flu. We are all evolving spiritually speaking. And looking at one's astrology chart, where we can look at the traditional astrology, like horoscope, so to speak, or we can look at it, which is what I do, and say, okay, so what's going on in one's chart to may be the cause of why someone's not moving forward. whether it's showing up as pain, illness, or disease, or why are they feeling stuck? And because of this energy that we're in currently, we're not really meant to move forward in this moment of time because we are evolving. And when we're evolving, it means we are really in the space, especially with so much energy sitting in Pisces right now. This is about rejuvenation, rest, and revisiting. And once the sun moves out of Pisces and moves into Aries, and Aries is the astrological new beginning, that is when things are going to start to flow forward, where we're no longer in our rest period. So when we speak about medical astrology, it really is exactly that. It is about where in our chart do we need to focus on, where is Virgo, what house is Virgo sitting in, and what's going on in your sixth house. And when we think of what's going on in the sixth house, if there's any planets there, there may be some intensity going on in that placement that may cause for some deliverance of rest, rejuvenation, and restore our energies at that moment of time. So that, I know it has a beautiful, fun name, medical astrologer. Everyone gets excited about it. They're like, what is a medical astrologer? And it's exactly just that. It's an astrologer that will look at a chart to see where there is any type of health issues or any place in concern. And it's also a place where, especially in my line of work that I do, where if a client comes to me wanting, quote unquote, to release weight, I can look at their chart and define for them if that is their season that they're releasing weight or not. And sometimes they get a little discouraged when I say to them, this is not the season for weight loss. This is really the season to hold on to that weight because your body needs it to support you in your journey you're moving into. Mm-hmm. So I hope that explained a little bit, gave you a little understanding to what a medical astrology is without overwhelming yourself to what medical astrology is.
And you said something key, because I want to go back to another question that I have, because and again, it's the mind, the body, the soul. It's what we're feeding into our body. So the next question I have, how does plant-based nutrition support the body's natural ability to restore balance and vitality?
Well, I think the answer is actually within the question. When we really think about keeping our vibration high, and in the energy that we're moving into, every one of us, whether we're conscious of it or not, in order for our frequency to rise and for us to feel more attuned to who we are spiritually, nurturing our body in the most healthiest way possible. And that is really about balancing. And this is not about, well, we're going to restrict what we're going to eat. It's learning how to balance, learning how to, again, the word I used earlier, intuition, become more tuned to what your body needs at that moment of time. So you may have to check in with your body and say, okay, does my body need whatever it is you're looking to eat? Does my body need vegetables right now? Does my body need fruit right now? Does my body need milk right now? And that's a question that needs to be asked on a regular basis. Do not take for granted just because you asked your body that your body needed vegetables, that it needed vegetables today, that you might want to ask that question tomorrow. Your body might need the same vegetables you needed the other day. So it's so important to pay attention intuitively to what we need. We have been programmed and conditioned I'm on this earth 56 years as of last week on my birthday. 56 years we have been conditioned to believe that there are certain foods that we should not be eating and there are certain foods we should be eating. And the reality of it all is it's not true for all of us if we learn how to attune ourselves to what our bodies really need. We are going to have periods of time where this may be your season that you may go through a high protein diet, where this may be your season where you find yourself eating more vegetables. This may be your season where you need those carbohydrates at this moment of time. This may be your season where you're indulging in sweets. You need to intuitively check in to see what's going to help your body be balanced at this moment of time. And the word is check in, because it's going to change. As the seasons change, so does the season within your own body in regards to what you can and cannot eat. I'll share a really quick story. It's really funny. For most of my life, my dietary habits were very clean. I would have basically vegetables every single day, make sure I had my rice, my chicken or fish every day. 2025, I can count on one hand with fingers left over how many times I had vegetables. I'm not sure what happened in 2025 to why I just had no desire to sit and eat vegetables at all. Not a little, not even a forkful. Had absolutely no desire. My entire dietary habit changed in 2025. And I, with all the journaling and reviewing and researching, I still cannot put my finger on what was the cause of my dietary changes taking place. Good to know that in 2026, I am back on my regimen that I've been doing for the last how many years? I have no idea though what was going on that led me down that rabbit hole to not want to have vegetables. Not a one. Not a one. So I bring that into the conversation because I want you all to understand that you may not have the answer to why all of a sudden you find yourself having this particular food group over this particular food group. Evaluate it, make note of it, and don't punish yourself for it. One of the most important things we can do going forward when it comes to nourishing our body is not to restrict, not to limit, and not to judge it. Allow it just to be what it is, because when you allow yourself just to let it be what it is, you release the resistance and the judgment, and also you release the weight that your body is going to hold on to from judgment and shame. So it's really important to pay attention to that process of this is what it is for now, and maybe it will change when it changes, and that's okay. So be open to that concept of letting go of judgment, guilt, and shame when it comes around food.
Wow. So you look, I'm telling you, you might have to come back for another part too. But you have some things that's coming up, and I want to share this, and I'm gonna put this up so the audience can see this that maybe they want to take a part of. So here we go.
Yes. Super excited, super excited. One of my, talking about creativity and birthing and all this great stuff for my ladies out there, and even men for that matter. What phase is your cycle in? And the word cycle means your menstruation, because we need to know, we need to understand what is actually going on during our menstruation, even though men might be sitting back saying, well, I don't get a menstruation. However, men also go through menopause. It's called atropause, and similar symptoms like women go through. So I would love for you to come join me, whether you are just starting your cycle, somewhere in the middle, counting the days to enter menopause, or in that phase where you're like at menopause at this point in time. I would love for you to come join me April 8th, 7:30 to 9 p.m. We're going to have a lovely conversation about the moon cycle and how the moon phases play a huge role in our menstrual cycle, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
And what she's holding there is her newest upcoming book,
Yes.
The Menopausal Portal. So that is a good segue to get into, learning about, like you say, wound care. A lot of people don't think about it. We don't think about that. There's a whole outstanding realm that you need to learn around on the basis of that. So there, hit her up. There's her information where you can send her a healing within 76@gmail.com. You're going to be blessed by it. I can tell you that. You're going to be blessed by hearing the information, because I'm telling you, I'm actually going to be talking with her much more.
Yes. So
yeah,
I'm extremely fascinated by that book, and even more so, I'm extremely fascinated by how many women have been conditioned to believe that menopause is just end of the world, like you turn over and die. And that, I know for me, and I'm sure you and I are in the same age group, we didn't talk about this stuff when we were younger. I never heard my mother talk about perimenopause and menopause. And a big part of what I want girls to know today, especially those who are just starting out with their cycle, everything is in that book. Is going to help them and guide them and really give them a different perspective to what all of this is when we first get our cycle until it ends, and the power that we have with all of that.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, Joanne, we might have to bring you back for another part 2. But before you go, I just want to ask this last question, and I'm going to put all eyes on you with this question, because I know a lot of people might be listening, have catch this, or they might be catching the replay. They be like, what is all this she talking about? Or you may have the ones who want to doubt it. But then I always say, read and do your own research yourself. So this is the question, and I'm getting ready to give it to you. What advice would you give someone who is just beginning their path into holistic, the HOLISTIC, or spiritual wellness? But here's the kicker, because when you do this, you will have the holistic, the WHOLISTIC. So what would you do, and what would you tell them?
Whoa, that is a mouthful. Someone just starting out in this industry, shall we say, holistically, just with the H, the spiritual components, and then really diving into the holistic aspects of things, reminding yourself that you are a whole person. And that if you only focus on the physical, you're missing a huge portion of who you really are. Diving in and discovering who you are holistically, emotionally speaking, because we are emotional creatures. Everything stems from our emotions, how we wake up in the morning, and how that is going to play out through the rest of our day. So we wake up feeling cranky and moody, and we understand the concept of being cranky and moody. We don't have to stay there all day. We can learn to manage our emotions. And as I said earlier, for those who were here earlier with us, learning to move our body, and whether that's through dance, strength training, going for a walk, something just to get that energy to flow and move so you don't get stuck and stagnant. So if you're just starting off in this industry, you're brand new, wet behind the ears, so to speak, I highly recommend that you take the approach of the holistic with the W, recognizing that you are a spiritual being having multitudes of human experiences, and that's what they are, human experiences. And whatever you're being led to go and do, and it could be where we sit back and say astrology is the woo-woo, where the reality of it all is astrology is just another language like any other language. I like to believe that just as we get in our car, and when we're not sure where we're going, we put our GPS on when we get in the car so it can take us to where we have to go in the shortest time possible. Our astrological makeup is our navigation system. So we learn how to use it. It helps us to really navigate through whatever lessons we're experiencing. Doesn't mean you're not going to have the lesson. It just helps you to better understand how to mold through it, when to do and when to rest. So again, for those who's just starting out holistically, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and soulfully. So by time you do complete your time on this earth, you have fulfilled what orders God has given you as your soul's purpose to be here. So that's what I have for you.
Well, again, everyone, this is where you can get her information, where you can find her. You can get the information, link up to get information from what you heard, of anything that you heard tonight. She'll definitely will be back on. I'm letting you know that beforehand. I see collaborations, so I'm all about that. So I greatly appreciate you for coming here tonight, sharing your wisdom. And audience, I always leave out with something to say to give you a thought process for the rest of the week. So there's some keys that I'm going to give you to remember this week. How you function. Take yourself to nature. What is your physical structure? What are you going to do on the side? And what meaning in the eternal emotion that you can imagine that you can benefit? So, again, I'm Dr. Michelle Boulden-Hammond here at the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul. Until next week, be blessed and have a week on purposeful living to your journey and your present day wellness.